Sounds good.
Okay, great. So I'll get started. I just wanted to introduce myself for people that haven't met me. I think I've met both of you guys at the Women Who Develop, but I've been working in Salesforce for 16 years, working for myself for 14 of those years, doing consulting, implementations. I'm working on my integration badge. It's the last one I have to do in the journey to the top of the pyramid, and then there's way more work to do again to actually present to the board, but I'm hoping to do that by the end of this year. And the integration exam that I'm working towards, I want to do it hopefully by the end of May. At least that's my plan. And I live in Canada, just north of Seattle in British Columbia. So that's me. And what I was hoping to do today is to go a quick round of intros, and since there's 3 of us, that should be nice and fast. And talk about what I had for an idea for a peer-led study group, because it's different than what I've been part of so far with the Ladies Be Architects, which is more of a presentation model. So this is a bit different that I had in mind. And then I wanted to go through the various areas in the integration exam, just so we're sort of familiar with where we're going. And then all of us could chat about different topics that we're interested in, and then maybe pick 3 or 4 topics that we would try to cover next week, and talk about how we would meet and how it's going to roll. We'll see where we get to that. So my idea for this was to, mostly for me, to give me some motivation to keep studying and some momentum. So I keep doing something every week, especially coming out of Trailhead DX. I was pretty excited with all the stuff I learned, and then I got bogged down with my own work. So thinking if we could get a group together where we're all looking at different things that we want to learn within it. So we didn't do the intros. Okay, let's stop. Let's go back since we got another person, Edith. Hi, Edith. You don't need to put on your webcam if you don't wish to, but we are. So before I jump back into the peer-led group, let's just do a quick round of intros. There's 4 of us on. I just introduced myself. So maybe just where you're from, your name, maybe where you work if you want to, and if you're hoping to take the exam in the near future, when that is, and anything else you'd like to share. So I want to start, Susanna?
Yes. So my name is Susanna St. Germain, and I am located just outside of Boston and work for a company called Boston Scientific. It's a medical device company, and I'm a Salesforce architect on the team. And I plan to take the exam probably in the next 2 to 3 months. My goal is to finish, it's kind of a, I guess, ambitious goal, but to get my system architect credentials. I just completed my application architect certification at Trailhead DX, and then my goal is to get my system architect, the other side of the pyramid, by the end of 2018, and then 2019 study for the board, and then go from there. So
awesome.
That's where I am.
Great. Okay, Nadina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nadina Lisbon. I'm from Austin, Texas. I work for Kabam. We make games. I'm working on maybe doing the integration actually at the end of April. I feel like it's a lofty goal, but I feel strong on the system side. So goal is to do the integration and then probably do the identity the month after, and then work on the data and sharing side and finish those 2018. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. How about you, Edith?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. My name is Edith. I am from Mexico, but I am working in England. So I work in a small consultancy firm, and we just have several customers, and we kind of provide Salesforce consultancy for them. Right now I am a developer, but I am starting to work towards my certification to get a technical architect. Before I was working for 10 years in Java, so I have and I was a technical architect in Java. So right now I'm hoping to be like integrating some of the knowledge that I had before. Just to get these certifications. And this is the first one. I am expecting to do this by June and get the system architect at the end of this year. So 3 more missing.
Great. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for joining us. Okay, so let's go back to what I was talking about on the peer-led study group. So I'm looking for something a little bit more regular, where I was, for myself anyway, hoping to get some more motivation to keep studying, keep learning new things. And I do find for myself, if I learn something well enough to be able to explain it, then that's a pretty good benchmark that I actually know what I'm talking about. And so that made me think about, well, let's get together with a few people who are also going for the same exam. Maybe Susanna's looking at learning something that I'd like to know about, and I'm looking for something that she'd like to know about. Great, if we each take our own topics, we present to each other, we've not only learned our topic, but we've learned something about the other one as well. So my hope is that we'll have enough topics that we can cover things that we all want to hear about. And so my thought was we would meet every week, and probably for me, it would be for a short period of time. I'm not expecting people to meet weekly for a year, but I'm thinking for what would work for me is like for the next 6 weeks, say, meet weekly, learn something from everyone else, talk about my task or topic that I was learning about, and then we figure out what's going to happen for the next week and go off and learn for that week as well. And so depending on the size of the group, we would, maybe we would have different people presenting one week than the other. Some of it's about, we welcome people to come and listen in, but I think the benefit is actually learning the topic and doing the presentation. And so maybe we'll have a few people that, like it sounds like for Nadina, she's ready to go in a couple of weeks, so maybe she would drop off afterwards, or maybe I would, or we'd have new people come in, so it'd kind of be a rolling thing, or see how it goes. And also I wanted it to be clear that nobody in this group is the expert and knows everything about the topic. Even if I'm presenting, I might have misunderstood something, and somebody else in the group might understand that topic better and say, actually, I think it's like this. And so I wanted to try and make this environment really open and collaborative, and it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to question the person who's presenting and say, are you sure? I read it differently. And maybe we go off and confirm things after the meeting and email back to the group or something. But that you don't have to be an expert to be in this group. We're all trying to learn from each other. So that's sort of where I was with this. It's a little bit more regular, and people are doing a little bit more of the work themselves to be part of, in my idea anyways, to be part of this. Do you guys have any questions about that, or any other thoughts on that yourselves?
No, I love the idea of the format, like, and that sort of like rolling, and new people could come on when they want to, and folks can roll off. And I think it's a good, I don't know, for me, like I love the idea of doing the learning and then presenting. So I think it's a good prep too, if any of us ever want to like present at any like community events or whatever. This is sort of a good test for that as well. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, great. Nice. Edith or Nadina, did you have any comments or feedback on that?
No, it sounds good. And my lofty goals might change. I've moved this certification like 5 times. So I just have to set a hard goal for myself, else I won't study.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I just passed the identity one last month while I was at Trailhead, that I was saying to Susanna before you guys joined, like, there's still lots I need to learn if I want to talk about it like I know what I'm talking about. I learned enough to pass, but not to stand in front of a group and spout off about it. So I think even if you pass and there's still things you want to work on, it's not like that's the end goal here. The end goal is to really understand the whole thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Great. Okay, so I just put in this slide with the actual topics that are covered in the exam, and then just so we're sort of getting our mind wrapped around the different areas. There's so much here that, I think, 6 weeks of this was not going to be enough to cover everything, obviously, but just to get an idea also of the weighting and the areas that are more important, less important, that are focused on. So some of them, like under the actual integration capabilities, there's lots about the different APIs and when to use them, how they would work, what's the benefits. So I think that's one area that's pretty big. As you can see, of all of them, it's the heaviest weighted. And then I think integration patterns are also important to be able to speak to what's the right pattern, and based on sort of a scenario. So it's like depending on if you, if you need callbacks or you need to redo things, or if you just send it off. And so there's topics around what pattern you might use, what makes sense. And then overall integration architecture concepts. That might be things like, if you're, what would you consider when you're trying to choose the actual integration method that you're going to use? And so we can delve into some of those topics. Also testing, how you might test things, especially with the bulk API and that kind of thing, and the types of tests that make sense. Security is probably another one that I think, for me, I know lots about writing Apex and callouts and future methods, but thinking about security is an important one when you talk about integration. I feel like there's a lot of overlap between the identity one here, where it's one thing to integrate, but then how are you authenticating between the systems that you're integrating? So I think that's another one for me that I want to look at. Some of the different tools that are available, and then some of the monitoring approaches, I guess, that they have. That's the general weighting of the exam. So for topics, I know that Susanna sent me, where did my list go? I made a little brainstorm list like a couple weeks ago as I was working through things, and Susanna sent me a list of things that she's interested in learning about or wanting to work on, and I can already see there's a bunch of overlap. So I thought, I don't know if Nadine and Edith, if you guys have thought about various areas that you really want to focus on. Maybe I can take notes of some of those, and then we can look to see if there's any overlap and try to figure out which ones people would want to take on themselves to look at. Do you guys have some thoughts on areas? I can make notes in here, and then we can share.
Yeah, for me, the patterns are very interesting. Those are some of the ones that I'm like the weakest on. Right. So I would like to focus.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that third bullet on your previous slide around the patterns, like for me, a lot of those were relatively, I was familiar with some of the language, but a lot of that was new. I hadn't really reviewed the exam guide recently.
Okay.
But
okay, so yeah, request, reply, fire, forget. Yep.
Yeah, I would definitely want to dig in on more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, that's good.
I have a sheet from the integration class that we filled out. I can't remember what the name of the class is, but it's like integratingwithforce.com. And it talks a lot about the patterns and like asynchronous, synchronous. And so that's what I've been using. So I'll share it. I don't think I have access to it from this computer, but I'll share it to the group. Where do you want me to share it?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can, when I post the recording and whatever other things on the Ladies the Architect, you can attach it in there.
Yeah.
And
I'll probably just attach the whole file. I think it'll be fine. It's just because the information probably needs to be updated anyway. Okay.
And is this a Salesforce course that you went through?
Yeah. So at the end of, I don't remember if you were in my class with Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the end he sent you this like box that we needed to fill out. So we actually filled out that box during the course. So I have the filled out version of it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Okay, so it's kind of like a worksheet that you can go through when you're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. That'd be good. Okay, one of the things I was trying to get straight in my head is the APIs. So especially SOAP and REST, what's the difference between them? What would you choose? When would you choose one over the other? I know there's a slightly different way of writing a web service if one's SOAP or if it's REST, but and I've done each of them, but I'm not sure, I didn't really make the choice as to which API to use, and so that's something I'd like to dig more into, is what are the pros and cons, what would you, why would you choose one over the other? I had that one up here. And then I guess
forgot
also
about Lightning Connect.
Pardon me?
I had forgotten about Lightning Connect in my list, but that's a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I was at the Trailhead DX, we talked quite a bit about what happens if you have multiple orgs that are trying to connect, and they have this cross-org adapter as one of the options for Lightning Connect. So just trying to, I don't have any clients that use that, but trying to understand what's part of that. Is that you have to pay for that feature, or how does it work? And for me, just understanding OData and trying to do some examples of how you would bring data in. Can you edit versus view? Like I said, it's changing. So that was also an area that I wanted to dig in more for myself anyways. And then also I get quite confused with the certificates, understanding, self-signed certificates versus the CA sign. When you use them, what are they part of? I mean, it's something I learned a little bit about under the identity side, but it seems like it comes into play more when you have these integrations that are calling into Salesforce, and then they need to present you with the client password for the client secret or however that works. So I wanted to dig in there because I kind of understand the concept, but not to talk about it, as you can probably tell. So that was something I thought would be something I'd want to dig into as well. Also, one thing I learned that I didn't really know, I thought I knew, was outbound messaging. So I thought it was fairly straightforward, the outbound messages, and I have a few clients that have marketing integrations or different things that you just configure a workflow outbound message. But then Greg, our instructor, was talking more about what happens in the background, and there's quite a bit more that goes on with that. So I was interested in learning that, but I thought it was just fairly straightforward, but there's actually a lot that goes on in the background for those. Let's see, I guess you've got that in here too. And what's Heroku Connect? What was that one, Susanna? You're muted right now. You're muted. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
Unmuted. Sorry, my dog is barking, so I'm like unmuted half the time. But it was one of the topics on the Dev 502 class overview, and I'm actually not familiar with it, but it's one of the tools that Salesforce has that allows you to connect Heroku and Salesforce, and there's some existing patterns there. I'm actually not familiar with it, so that's why I put it on the list as something I wanted to become more familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Salesforce uses. So if you think on Salesforce Connect, where's the visual, Heroku Connect is like the middleman that does all the heavy lifting. So you can use them in parallel. And you know about this because we're looking at a solution with them.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, that was another thing I was thinking, is if somebody's doing a project with some of these topics, it would be cool to actually see, if there's nothing too personal or private about the setup, to see an example of it in working, or either like partway through the development, or, like I've written a lot of email services. I think, Nadina, were you the one that had done a presentation on email services for the women who develop? I remember
Yes.
That was you. Yeah. So, so obviously she has quite a bit of knowledge about that, and I've done some web services and call outs, and so there's definitely, I think, in the group too, lots of current knowledge about some of these topics that could chime in. What I wanted to avoid was going over as a presenter all the stuff I already know, because I already know that. So that's fine if that's for my purpose, but I really want to use this to learn new things. So, but I guess point being that if someone else wanted to learn about that and they studied that, there's things that we could be chiming in on as the person's presenting at the end and pointing out, or to sort of help make it more of a full presentation or something. So, yeah, the other thing I'm interested in learning more is what you can do with the data loader. I've only ever used it for data updates and inserts and deletes, and I understand there's quite a bit more you can do in terms of scheduling jobs and doing replications and things like that, and I don't really know much about that at all. And it seems like my clients are mostly sort of small to medium-sized business and don't usually have the ability to, not even having a full sandbox. Most of them can't afford those kind of things. So trying to use these free tools as much as possible seems like a good thing to learn. Yeah, CTI. I think for me, that's just something I'm going to understand what it does from a high level, but I don't think that's going to be in my toolhouse or my toolbox for stuff. But is that something you want to dig into, Susanna? Or
just sort of high level, same thing, like knowing enough if it's going to be on the exam, and on the board, knowing how it works. And
yeah, exactly.
That was the same approach. I was thinking about that one.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Did anyone on this call have experience setting that up or using it? No, me neither. Okay. Okay, well, it seems like there's quite a bit of crossover, and it sounds like everyone's pretty interested in the patterns, integration patterns, and then some API stuff looks like that's common. What was it? Sorry, Nadina, what was it that you were looking for? I didn't write anything down for you. Anything specific, or were you also talking about patterns?
No, I was the same patterns.
Okay. Okay, I'll just put you in.
And I thought the outbound messaging, like under the hood stuff you were talking about, Niki, was interesting. Like I'd be into hearing about that or learning about that.
Yeah. I feel like I want to build myself a dictionary of Salesforce terminology because I get so confused with like Heroku Connect, Salesforce Connect, Lightning Connect, Identity Connect. Like, what are all these products? And then, you know, I've been around for so long, it's like all the products get renamed every year too. So then you have to keep a track of what used to be called and what it is now. But yeah, so even maybe maybe we could build some sort of a Google Doc where we just throw up some terms that we're learning and put, you know, even if it's just a reference to some help file or something, but a generic, like, here's what this means.
Do we know for sure, sorry, Niki, do we know for sure, like, when they're going to start talking about their new cloud, integration cloud? I know it won't be on the exam now, but I'm sure, like, when we're taking the boards in a year or two, that'll be something that we could possibly use.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but my understanding is it's potentially going to replace or be more of a plug and play to most of these concepts. So that because MuleSoft already has so many of those, sort of a middleware. So it'd be like I don't know. It's hard to know. And also for me, it's like, well, how much is it going to cost? Because most of my clients are like, forget it. We already have something in place. I'm not going to switch and pay more and pay monthly for some new feature. But yeah, I think that's kind of a common question. Like I have, you know, when is Lightning going to start coming into Platform Developer 1 and 2? And it sounds like someone was saying already Heroku, there was a couple of Heroku questions on the Platform 1. I took mine, like, I don't know when it was anymore, 4 years ago or something, so it wasn't even really in the works. But and I was interesting even seeing Greg as our instructor was, you know, he appears anyways to know so much about so many topics, but even he was sort of like, well, I don't know, with Lightning, you know, I've tried this, I'm not really sure, and it's definitely, even though it's been around for a couple of years, it's still pretty new for a lot of people and what's coming. And yeah, so I don't know, I guess that one is sort of, one of the things he was talking about when he was, I guess when he did his CTA, they didn't have all these exams. This is fairly new in the last few years. So he did his, whatever the prereqs were, I can't remember at the time, and then he did his multiple choice one, which covers a whole bunch of stuff. And then he just had this sort of checklist of things he wanted to work on over time. And he spent, I'm not sure, I can't remember if he said a time frame, but anyway, he worked on doing all these different things. So I kind of like that concept where it's like, I'm not going to learn, you know, the integration cloud right now. Clearly it's not GA and it's still up in the air, but put it on my list as I approach the CTA. And even after, like, it seems like it's not like you reach the CTA and then I'm done. It's like you have to keep up with all this stuff. So I like that idea. I think for myself, I'm going to start this list. Well, this was kind of where I started. That's how I started this. And I was like, okay, I can't learn all that stuff by myself. Let's get some more people involved. But yes, I think that would be a good one to put on. And even with, I think it was the external objects, it used to be only view. And now I think either this release or next release, we're going to be able to do some edits. So even these topics are changing a little bit.
Right, yeah, it's like a new version of OData, I think. OData 4.0 or something. Okay. Allows you to edit, I think what I heard.
Right, yeah, so things change, but okay. So how do we want to do this then? My thought on well, first of all, I realized that this time for me is, I have another meeting at 1 o'clock every Monday. So if I'm running the Zoom, that's fine, but I have to stop at like 11 or whatever that is, 12:58. I can't roll over. So I don't know if, there's the 4 of us here, so we can choose. If you guys are all able to come next Monday, I was going to propose we shift it back a half an hour, so 11:30 to 12:30, whatever that is in your time zone, so that's Pacific. Does that still work for you guys if that's where we would meet?
I have a meeting. I have a stand-up that's like 15 minutes. I would be 15 minutes late, but that's fine.
Okay. Well, we could even, if it's not too weird, we could shift it 15 minutes. I just need for myself, I need about 5 or 10 minutes to get to my next call. And sometimes, if we're really into something, I don't want to have to cut it off when we are. So did that work for you, Edith, if we met 15 minutes earlier next week than this?
Either 15 or half an hour is okay.
What about you, Susanna?
Yep, either is fine.
Okay. Then we are the group, so we will make that executive decision. So I'll send out another Zoom for next week, but it will be 11:45 to 12:45 Pacific. And then, okay. So then my other thing was, what if there's 15 people here? How are we going to do so many presentations? And as often turns out, there's lots of excitement and plus I only booked it on Friday, so that's all the other thing. But I thought that, so let's go back to my slides here. Not that one, but that one. Okay. So I was thinking about, do we want to do sort of 3 presentation topics for 15 minutes each? And that gives us a few minutes to get in. And then also at the end, some time to plan, okay, what's happening next week? Or maybe we'll already have planned, weeks in advance if we have lots of people. But I don't know what you guys think about that. If that's 15 minutes is long enough. It's not that long, but we could do, if we got to 20 minutes and 3 of us, then now we're really taking up the entire hour. Or more, but shorter. I don't know what you guys think. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the topic, because or maybe we can break the topics a little bit more. For example, integration patterns it's very wide, but if we can break it a little bit more, maybe to fit on the 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, and it seems like for this week, there's a bunch of us are really interested in that. So maybe we could whoever wants to do the topic can pick 2 or 3 of the patterns, and the other person picks the other ones, and then we could do, 25 minutes or something on that one. And then you guys can, whoever it is, can just sort of tag team one after the other.
I was going to say too, if maybe like the way how you have your running list, if we kind of organize it by subject, and then before the presentations, I know it's like a lot to ask, but kind of have that information already there so that at least people can see, they can add, they can get their questions ready from before.
So meaning like if I was going to present on something, then before the meeting that whatever I'm presenting would be available for everybody to look at? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like have a Google Doc running. So if like you're doing integration pattern and then say you're working on the bulk API, under the bulk API, we have like the info you're already presenting, and then people can like add to that before the meeting if they want to, or they can see the information so they can be like, oh, okay, I have this specific question, and maybe they might like go and look for the answer themselves as well. So like people could get more versed. And then that way at the end of the 6 weeks, you should have a pretty good like study guide.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about keeping all those notes together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think if we, like Edith was saying, if we split up the topics into smaller chunks, or even maybe, if it's just the 4 of us, like we could like divvy up the integration patterns probably like just focus on that for next week. Even that's such a big topic.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let's say for this next week, maybe we just focus on integration patterns. And then we can each take a few things. Maybe we can look at that and see if there's enough to really spend a whole hour on that. I know for myself, I want to cover more things than that through my week, but that doesn't mean that I can't do some on my own as well. I think just having this meeting for me is helpful to keep me going on things. And, I do want to spend some time on this APIs, REST versus SOAP and when you would use the one or the other, but that's something I can do. And maybe if there's time at the end after we've done some presentations and we've covered everything, people can just sort of throw out things that they've learned that week, especially if we have that list of what everybody is interested in. And then we could, if I know there's someone there that's also interested in the APIs, I can say, I figured this out, and just have a bit of a random facts that we throw out. Okay. And I like the idea of having a running document. I'm not sure I love people like putting stuff into my list if I'm using that to then present, because then it's like, oh, where did this topic or this note come from? This isn't what I was thinking, but maybe there's more of a, adding comments or people keeping a list for themselves to, if there's questions to ask. I don't know, what was your thought around that one, Adina, when you suggested that?
Well, normally, if I'm going to share the document, I keep it as read-only before I present, and then after that, I'll give edit access to who needs edit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe what we can do is have one like overall document that after each meeting, everything gets put in there. Because it'd be nice to have, I don't know, do we want one resource that people can come and look and see everything, and then as we go, we add to it? Or do you think it's better to have a whole bunch of different documents that people can pick and choose based on the topic?
I like the idea of having the one, but it could get confusing if somebody's not managing that, and that then becomes like a time thing. Who has the time to keep it managed?
Yeah. What if we started with a Google folder, like a Google Drive folder, and we can each put our stuff in there. And like you said, I start my document, whatever I'm working on, as read only. And then once I'm done, maybe we share it out. And maybe for this next week, because we're all going to cover different integration patterns, I could take a task at the end to just combine all the topics and just have one document for integration patterns. Whereas if it was something totally different, then maybe we keep it all separate, but have the document title be more specific about what it is. Because I'm just thinking if other people outside of our group want to do some learning, we can compile quite a good library of information, with the caveat that it may not be right because we're all learning, but at least it's a good reference. Okay, so that looks like that sounds like a good idea. Okay. Okay, so, and then the last one I had here, if we had lots of people, I know there's certain people that couldn't make it because it was too short notice. Other people just can't make Mondays. But I think this kind of a structure, in my mind, this kind of structure works best with a small group. It doesn't work that well with 10 or 15 people unless the people other than the presenters are just listening in and asking questions. So I was thinking if there's lots, then maybe other people can do the same kind of structure, but at a different day and different time, and then people could sort of jump into the meetings that they can make. I don't know. Anyway, didn't turn out that there's lots of people here, so we'll just stick with this for next week. But if we get tons of people next week, then maybe that's something we can talk about at the end of it. And then the last slide here, I just did a search for Quizlets. I mean, I have no idea what's in each of these. And I think because we're sort of focusing more on a topic, I think this was a templated slide from the presentations that Gemma and Charlie have been doing, where it's overall the whole topic, which has been great. So I just filled it in because there was a spot to fill things in. But I think probably for our group, it would be more about the resource will be links to those documents and that we go over, each of us go over. Okay, so maybe what we can do is I can start a folder for this and then invite you guys, and then we can, or let's start by looking through the pattern. I think is everyone happy with taking one or two patterns and just focusing on that for next week? Or does anybody else want to do something different?
I think that works for me. Just getting some couple of patterns. Okay.
Well, the other thing I did find was this super badge. I'm not huge into badges and projects and modules myself, but I did find this one that looks like it doesn't cover everything, obviously, but it does cover a bunch of different things in terms of the concepts. And so maybe at one point, this would be interesting to look at if it fits into what we're working on ourselves. But I think there was an article on patterns. So
I think there is also a trail mix in Trailhead. There is a trail mix that has lots of resources for this exam.
Oh yeah, I did have that on here, didn't I? Trail mix. This is for the actual
so maybe
integration.
It has information about
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this one. That might be the one I just found. No, it's slightly different. Oh, there's Greg. That was our teacher in Real IBX, at least for, I think, Medina. So sometimes, I don't know, like this one's from 2014. I think it's probably still great information, but I do feel like there's changes that have happened and new products that are available. I don't know, I do tend to sometimes look at the date and read it with a grain of salt, if that's how you say that. But yeah, there's a few different things in here. One on patterns. I don't know if you guys have done any of these ones where it's like that player where you click through and answer questions, the LMS one. Anyway, this one might be interesting too to look at. I'm not sure if it's specific to PAD. Sorry. Yeah, so I mean, this is talking a little bit about the patterns. Or maybe if we, I mean, there's 5 of them here. This match seems to match. Where did that list go? Yeah, page 6. There we go. So remote request reply, find and forget. So this list here is the same as the list here with some links. I don't know if we want to each take one of these and dig into more detail about that particular one. And I think the trick is going to be too to distill whatever you learn down into sort of a 10-minute, a 15-minute presentation. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, does anybody have one that they really are jonesing for, or do we just go down the list?
I'm fine with any of them. I'm thinking maybe we can do like like when we do our presentations, obviously personal preference we can figure out on our own, but like do an overview of it, but then maybe also like talk about a use case for like when you would like talk about it in theory, and then maybe talk a little bit more in detail about like what a use case might look like, even if we're not like obviously building it, but just have like some examples that we saw through how it might look in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if you've done, I don't know, like a Trailhead module on it, or if you've something in your own org similar, maybe there's time to do a quick, not a demo so much as just like to show here's how it was configured, or here's the elements. I always like seeing the real thing versus just reading about it. So, okay.
I like that. Show and tell.
Yeah. Okay, I'm kind of interested in learning more about the data sync piece. So maybe if nobody has anything they really want, I'll take the batch data synchronization. What about the rest of you guys?
I
I'll do
like
the first one.
Well, if nobody else.
Okay, go ahead, Edith. What do you want?
The second one, that is the fire and forget.
Fire and forget, okay.
Yeah.
I'll do a request and reply.
Okay.
I'll do remote call-in.
Okay. I'll make a list of this and post it for us. Remote call-in. Okay. Okay, and I think this one is more about like Visualforce. What's this one about? Okay, well, I'll just stick with the 4 that we have, and we can see if anyone has extra time to look into that one, we could maybe throw that one at the end if there's time. Okay. And then I'll set up a Google Drive and put the link in the Ladies Be. Are you guys all part of Ladies Be Architect? I think so, right? That's how you found this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'll put a post in there with, I guess, with the recording and with our notes for who's doing what. And I'll also put next week's Zoom link in there, and then the link to the Google Drive that we can each create our own docs in there and start putting in information about the pattern you're looking at. And then I don't know, do you guys want to do like slides? Everyone send me your slides before we start and I put them in, or do you want to keep it a little more casual and just have your notes that you go through and talk about it? What do you think?
I think for me, it works a little bit better to have slides because it's like a guide for myself, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. What about the rest of you guys? What do you think,
Yeah,
Susanna? Do you
I would
like
probably
slides?
use slides either way. So whether we just like have our own slides and share, well, it would make more sense for you to collate them or someone to collate them actually, since so we can share them with people beyond just this group. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll talk to Gemma and Charlie about this template they sent me. She just emailed it to me, so if we can post it on their group, then maybe anyone who's doing these kind of things can use it. But that way, you guys can pick the page template that makes sense, and then it's probably easier for me that way to put it all together than to have to cut and paste your stuff into the template. We'll see. But yeah, that's probably good. That kind of makes a nice package for someone who's watching the recording afterwards.
Yeah, I think that would be good if you could kind of use the same template.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, is there anything else you guys wanted to, what else did I have? I had their kind of, thank you. Anyways, I'll put my stuff in there and then we can keep talking through that the chatter group that we have. All right, so I think we have a plan. Any other questions or anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we end?
I just thank you for organizing this because otherwise I would just procrastinate.
Yeah, time just goes by, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for coming. I'm really happy that we got some people and then we have a plan for next week. And then I think what we should do, we might get more people next week now that they had a bit more notice. And so maybe we'll try to keep 5 minutes at the end to come up with, if anyone has new topics, or come up with some more of our own. I'll post that list I have in that group as well and just keep a running list, because maybe before we meet, if you guys have the next week's topic here in mind, if it's just the 4 of us again, then it's pretty quick. We can each pick something. We don't spend too much time on it. But if new people come in, then we can look at that. I do feel like at a certain point, there's not that much room for too many more people. So maybe we work on getting more groups going instead of just having a humongous group of people all attending the same one. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But people are, of course, welcome to listen in. It's just a matter of, like, I want to try and present every week, because that's part of it, is for me to learn to also to be presenting. So rather than facilitating for other people all the time. So yeah, we'll see. Okay.
Sounds
all
good.
right, so I'll do all that posting and then we'll plan to meet again next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
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 Bye.